Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast with Dr. Mike Headlee and Dr. Gordon Fimreite, where we'll be exploring different angles of health to achieve the best version of yourself. Now here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Gordon.
Welcome everyone. I am Dr. Mike Headlee. With me is my partner, Dr. Gordon Fimreite, and we have a very special guest, Dr. Byron Jackson. Welcome, guys.
It's a pleasure.
So we're looking forward to just grinding in and finding out what you do and how you do it. And Dr. Mike has talked highly of you. So it sounds like you guys had a little bit of a history and he got familiar with you and your work and your passion and love for the profession and everything in between. So I'll let Dr. Mike start off with our interview.
So I'm going to just start off with the bio, a quick little short bio, because this isn't everything that Byron has done. And then Byron, Dr. Byron, I'm going to have you, since we talk about the health angle and we talk about all aspects and all angles of our health, I'm going to just have you tell us a little bit about your health journey growing up until where you are today. So I'll let you think about that answer. Dr. Jackson is known to his friends and colleagues as the Good Doctor. He's a dedicated chiropractor with a passion for empowering people towards greater well-being. Beyond spinal adjustments, Dr. Jackson writes on topics of health, spirituality, and achieving prosperity. His latest book, You Should Prosper, can be purchased on Amazon and all major booksellers. You can also find Dr. Jackson on his YouTube channel, Your Favorite Doctor, Dr. Jackson. So welcome, Dr. Jackson.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you are welcome. So give us a little insight on your health journey from growing up to where you are today, because I know you walk your talk now. You're a former athlete, but just were you always a healthy kid growing up? And tell us if you had any health challenges and things along the way.
Well, I wouldn't say I was healthy, but, I was a typical short, right, pudgy, fat kid, right? And so for guys, it's a little easier, if you're fat, if you're chubby, right, you can translate that into sports, right? So, I grew up playing football most of my life. Went to college, won 2 national championships at Mount Union College. And then from there, got accepted into Life University. They had a really awesome accelerated chiropractic program. And went on, became a chiropractor, went back, got a master's in sports science. And during that time, I met you, right? And you really just helped me understand the importance of keeping things simple, because people like things that they can hold on to and that they can explain to others. And so till this day, over a decade and a half later, we focus on that, keeping things simple so that people can translate it to others.
Nice. Very nice.
Byron, was there one thing that really enticed you to take chiropractic as the direction? What was that deciding force?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So when I was a little kid, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, my grandmother died from something called iatrogenic death. And for all the viewers, right, that's a fancy way of saying unintentional injury. That's actually still a big thing now. So I think last year in 2022, or excuse me, this is 2024, but in 2022, unintentional injury was the 3rd leading cause of death. It killed more people than COVID, right? Mm. So it was cancer, heart disease, unintentional death, and then COVID, right? So my grandmother died from that. And I just remember being a little kid and hearing my parents and grandparents, here in the family all talk about how, my grandmother died from unintentional injury, whether it's wrong procedure, wrong medication, those type of things. I just remember being a little kid and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to be a good doctor and I'm going to help people, right? So fast forward, I'm in high school, it's time to graduate, and I've always gotten decent grades. And my father said, well, hey, what type of doctor are you going to be? I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, have you ever thought about chiropractic? Now, mind you, no one in my family had ever been to a chiropractor before. My father was just so impressed by a Black guy in the community who was named Dr. Struthers. And he said that whenever he would come around, people just really adored him. They admired him. He was an honorable guy. And people always felt better when he left. So I actually researched, looked it up. I found that chiropractic, in this essence, focused on the overall impact of the body. How can we overall change the body to a more optimal state, right? The way that God designed it to function. How can we do that naturally if possible? I thought that was pretty awesome. It was that simple for me. And I just went straight to chiropractic from there.
Did you actually meet him? Did you meet him, and was he a mentor?
Oh, no, he had already passed by the time
Oh,
my dad shared this story with me. But I had never been adjusted before. I just went out on faith. I was like, man, this just makes sense. You have a nervous system. If there's interruption in the nervous system, your body's not going to function correctly. Chiropractors remove the interference so that your body functions more optimally. It just made sense to me.
that's brilliant.
Yeah, it does make sense, doesn't it? It's so simple and clean and pure, and the philosophy of the why, what we do, and then the clinical results and the low risk, and it was really, really cool, Dr. Byron. So I'm kind of curious, you can share with our listeners that you have two offices. Your wife is a chiropractor, and like, so I'm kind of curious the motivation or the drive that you get to do what you do. Writing books, have multiple offices. Your wife's a chiropractor. You're a high achiever. You're a community family man. So what drives you and motivates you, Dr. Byron?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. I think it's just something innately that just I've always came from the philosophy that if you learn something that's valuable, it needs to be shared with others, right? And if you want to really dive deep into it, right, we really only have two sources to pull from when we look at truth, either religion or science, right? And if you look at all religion, you look at all science, there's one overriding thing they all agree upon, and that is that we all have a need to love and we want to be loved, right? Everyone wants to love and we want to be loved. And so when you say, well, what drives you? What makes you do these different things? I understand that each one of us have a unique value in this world. It's our job to add that value. So each day that I get up, I know that I got some value that I need to add, whether it's to a patient, whether it's to my community, whether it's to my country. So whether it's through writing books, whether it's through delivering an adjustment, I'm essentially trying to remove the stress that may be in a person's life so that they can be more loving and ultimately make our world a better place to live.
Tell us all the books that you've written, and the first book you ever wrote. What
Okay.
motivated you to write that book? And then since then, what kind of motivation have you had just to continue to write? Because that's impressive. How many books do you have total?
Yeah, so I have 6 books published.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm working on a 7th one now. So I've written a number of books. My first book I actually wrote when I was in chiropractic college, and it's called Think Large, I Dare You, right? And it essentially just lays out the concept for students of all walks of life, especially some of us who may come from areas where you may be the first person in your family to go to college, or maybe you have stress or expectations from your family members, or maybe you move from another state to go somewhere else, right? Just what did I do to put one foot in front of the other each day, right? So essentially that's what that book lays out, right? So it talks about things like self-confidence and, just continuing to push yourself each and every day, right? So I think it was Jim Rohn, an interviewer was asked him, well, this motivational thing you do, does it last? And he laughed and he said, no, but neither does showering. And that's why you have to do it every day, right? because the motivation, the faith that you used last week, it got used for those things from last week, right? I tell people it's just like when you're driving your vehicle, you put gasoline in there. Now, you don't use the gas that you had from 6 months ago, right? Even if you left it in the gas can, eventually at some point it's going to evaporate. So you have to use up those things and you got to keep refueling yourself. And so that book is just all about just encouraging people to just strive for excellence and be the best them that they could be. The thing that a lot of people don't want to speak on in America is the issue of race relations, right? It is what it is, right? In biblical times, it was more of a geographical thing, right? That's why we get you hear people say the Good Samaritan Act, right? A lot of people miss the point of that. It was that Samaritans generally didn't associate with the other cultures, right? And so in our time, it's more of a race thing, right? But I try to explain to people that regardless whether you're black, white, Asian, doesn't matter. Everybody has a race we have to run, right? Some of us may have hadn't gotten a better head start than others, but the fact is you still have to run that race, right? So I have a head start than some other people. Why? I came from a 2-family household. My parents are still married. So that's an advantage that someone else didn't have. But we all have to run our race, right? And so that first book essentially is just the culmination of saying, hey, here's the cards you were dealt. How do you play that hand the best way you can?
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. I want to point out to the audience that if you're in chiropractic school, That's a lot of work, just that alone. And most people don't have extra time to be writing a book. So with that said, my hat's off. I'm impressed with just that alone. Because I'm thinking, I was at the library every night. And if we had an exam coming up, I'd be studying in the library like 24/7. So wow, 6 books, you're on your 7th book. That's unbelievable. But with the success and the passion you put out there, that has to break down so many barriers for you. It must open you up to everybody, every culture, every race, everything.
Well, it's funny you say that. So when you come into our office, right, there's either, one of our offices, there's a huge Bible scripture on the wall that says, I wish above all that you prosper and be in health, right? You go into the other office and there's a bunch of, Bible stuff and biblical things on the wall. And the funny thing is that we take care of people of all walks of life, right? We're non-judgmental, right? I don't care which letter of the alphabet you identify with, what pronoun you identify with. Only thing I want you to understand is that when you come into our office, you're coming into a place of love, right? And the best way that we do that is by putting a Bible scripture on the wall or putting something inspirational. And what's so funny is that I have patients who are, Islamic, Hindu, Buddha, and at the end of the day, we have spiritual conversations about just the love of life, right? And this great power that created birds and trees and the atmosphere, right? And it's just amazing to me how so many of us, we get caught in all the mumbo jumbo that we forget to just sit back and just enjoy the light, right? Mm-hmm. So here recently in Cleveland, Ohio, we got a chance to see the Northern Lights this past weekend. Nice. And that was absolutely amazing. I've been wanting to go to Alaska for the longest, and my wife's like, hey, it's too cold out there, right? But we got a chance to get a glimpse of it. And I know in like certain parts of Northern California and some other places, they saw that. But, at the end of the day, I just tell people, hey, just add value, whatever that value is. And I never tell people how to define that value, whether it's your community, your family, the country, just add value. Focus on giving more than taking. There's a pretty awesome study that came out, I think like back in 2008. It was called it was a research study, pro-social spending and happiness. And what they found is that when participants actually took money and spent it on people rather than on themselves, they developed a higher level of happiness. And so they gave participants either $5 or $20. And those who actually went and purchased something for somebody else reported that they just felt an innate sense of love and happiness, because we all want to give, we all want to love. I just think sometimes we just get so distracted by all of the, negativity that comes in, whether it's from the, the media outlets or, just things that happen in life. And I think sometimes that distracts us from just the pure essence of being loving.
Yeah. The old saying, the more you give, the more you get.
Amen.
There's so much truth in that. It's like the law of the energy. It's the laws of the universe.
So at our office, when you come in our office, people always ask, well, what makes your office different? What makes it different from anybody else's? Right. And it's so funny. I used to tell patients, it's not a us versus them attitude. It's not us versus physical therapy or versus the pain management doctor or versus whomever. Right. And I used to tell people, a physical therapist can open up right next door to me and we're going to be friends. Fast forward, they say that God has a sense of humor, right? In one of our offices, literally, then we're in the office plaza. I can knock on my wall and there's a chiropractor on the next wall over. I can't make this up, man. Yeah. We're both successful. No one is stealing a patient from anyone, right? When he moved in, right, we introduced ourselves. I said, hey, if anyone comes looking for you, I'll let them know. And if anyone comes looking for me, just let them know I'm over here. And it happens. Someone just came in yesterday looking for them. I say, oh, no, hey, he's literally on the other side of this wall. They say, oh, well, thank you so much. And so it's funny that, so many times we focus on me, and taking rather than giving. And I think the more we give, the more is given back to us. So what makes our office different is that we really focus on creating a better experience for people. Too many times when we go to our doctor's offices, the front desk person, right, is clipping their nails, they're on the phone, they're dragging, right, they're wiping, the cold out their eyes. It's just not a fun environment. So when you come into our office, number one, we provide friendlier service than you have ever seen. So much so that before we pick up the phone, we actually smile because we believe that you can hear a smile. So no matter what's going on in your day, the phone rings, the first thing you got to do is just smile, right? Because on the other end of that phone, someone may be in a worse place than you, right? So we make sure to provide friendlier service, number one. Number two, we really excel in hospitality. So when you come in, it smells good, it looks good, right? We also make sure it sounds good. We play low frequency tones. We tell jokes in the office. It's not that we believe that patients' health is, something to be played with, but we just want to let people know, hey, we're here to love you. We want to give them a more positive outlook on life. And people leave all the time saying, hey, I feel refreshed and rejuvenated. I learned things from Dr. Headlee, like when a patient comes in the office, stop asking them how they're doing unless you're prepared to answer that question. What if you say, hey, well, how are you doing today? And the guy just tell you, well, my wife just left me, or my grandparent just died. If you're not equipped to answer that question, you may want to rephrase something such as, hey, it's good to see you today, right? I'm so happy you're here. Hey, happy Wednesday. So those are just a few of the things that we do in our office to try to really not make ourselves different from any other chiropractor, but to just try to make people feel more positive.
Okay, Dr. Byron, I want to come to your office and feel the love and the importance and get one of those great adjustments and be in the atmosphere of that. So I will do that someday.
And, I don't want to take any credit for myself, but, like I said, at the end of the day, we all have to add value. Something that was so touching to me, I had a gentleman, early 30s. He had started with us, and he was, new to our office. And, there was a Friday. That Monday, his mother calls me and says, hey, doc, I just want to give you a heads up that he's, being hospitalized for trying to commit suicide, right? He came back into our office. He stayed with us maybe, it was a work injury, so he might have stayed with us maybe a year or so. By the time that guy left our office, he was a totally new person, man. Had a new girlfriend, purchased his first home. It was like the suicide ideation never happened. That was the old him, right? It was like, man, you got me something to live for, right? And it was bigger than the adjustment. It was bigger than chiropractic as much as it was. We wanted him to know, hey, you're an individual. We're here to see you, and we're here to love on you. And if it's something we can do, you let us know. So many times people say, hey, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. Well, do you really mean that? Right? If you don't mean it, don't say it, man, because you may say that to somebody and they really put their faith in you and you let them down, you can really affect a person.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you for that. It's a beautiful story. And I'm sure there's a lot more you could tell. I know, Dr. Byron, you wrote a book called 100 Health Tips. I'm curious what was the inspiration behind that, and do you use that with your patients? And is there any couple tips that you always fall back on over and over and over with your patients?
Yeah, so when I wrote 100 Health Secrets, the reason I wrote that book is because so many times I run into people and they will say things like, their sickness or disease is hereditary, or, hey, my grandmother had back problems, or, hey, God's teaching me a lesson, or, all these other things that we do to just try to dismiss the fact that maybe it was us, right? Maybe it's not God. Maybe it's not the angels. Maybe it's not your genes. Maybe it's us, right? Maybe we ate the wrong foods. Maybe we didn't manage our stress properly. Maybe we're not getting adjusted. Maybe we're not brushing our teeth enough, right? Maybe we're not wearing the proper shoes or beds and things like that, right? So it just got to the point where I learned a long time ago, sometimes the things that anger you are the things that you have a purpose for. So one day I was just like, we're not doing this anymore, right? I'm just going to give people some simple tools, some simple tips, some things that they can do to ultimately just make you a healthier, happier person, right? So there are a number of different, what I call health secrets in the 100 Health Secrets book. So like one of them, right, is that, unfortunately in America, we run into gentlemen who oftentimes, hey, doc, I just got diagnosed with prostate cancer, right? We hear that so many times, right? So, or ladies say, hey, ovarian cancer, right? Or these, nodules in the breast and things like that. So one of the things I tell them, which is in a book, I try to help them understand, hey, listen, I want you to live a little. I want you to live a lot, not a little. What I mean by that is this. What we have known since the 50s is that, generally speaking, cancer feeds on sugar, right? Sugar meaning sugar, cakes, sweets, pies, cookies, and also starches, right? So when you eat a piece of bread, essentially it turns into sugar in your bloodstream, right? So, try to eliminate, the sweets, try to eliminate the starches, right? That's what potatoes, the bread, the rices, right? And so people say, well, Doc, what do I eat? What we're all designed to eat: vegetables, fruits, nuts, eggs, meats, right? And so, not to be controversial, whether, vegan, vegetarian, that's your prerogative. But generally speaking, vegetable, fruits, nuts, eggs, berries, meat, right? It's just that simple. So, right. So I try to explain to people those simple things like that. Other things, simple, just like I tell people, hey, when's the last time you got new pillows? They say, huh? A lot of people, we talk about our mattresses, but what about the pillows? Think about, you're laying in this bed 6 to 8 hours a night. You're coughing, you're sneezing, you're sweating, you're breathing in all of these different bacterias or these different things that may have been on your face or on your head, right? Research shows that you should throw those out every 2 years, not wash them. Every 2 years, you need new pillows. A lot of us don't think about that, right? We get a mattress, but we use those same pillows. So that's another tip that I tell people about. There's, like I said, 100 of them, but there's a number of different tips that I just try to explain to people that, hey, here's some simple things that we can do to live a more healthier, optimum life.
Nice. So
that's
great.
You asked, do I implement it in the office? So usually around the Christmas time, we'll order a bunch of them and we give them out as Christmas gifts.
Nice. That's very nice. I bet they love that. Yeah.
I want to ask one last question from my end. We have viewers that may be considering chiropractic and they might be afraid. They might have heard a story or maybe they saw a TikTok video that scared them, but they're kind of thinking maybe I should see a chiropractor. What would you have to say to those viewers who might be reluctant to see a chiropractor?
Right. So that's a very good question. Right. And so, simple answer is that you have to try it for yourself. Right. And right. Are there some stories out there where maybe someone did have an adverse reaction? Absolutely. Right. But just like I explain to people, I like Chinese food. Have I ever had food poisoning from Chinese food? I have. It doesn't mean I stop eating Chinese food. Or, right, you ask my wife, has she ever not got a good hairstyle from a beautician? Sure, she had to go to another beautician. So for those that are out there and they're, considering chiropractic care, just a couple of things I'll just like them to think of. When it comes to safety in healthcare, look at malpractice. Chiropractors have the cheapest, the last I checked, malpractice rates than anybody in this country. I pay less in malpractice insurance than I do for my car insurance. I actually pay more for my car, and I haven't had a ticket in years, right, in decades. But I pay more for car insurance than I do for my medical malpractice. I have $1 million and $3 million policy. Why is that? Because the chance of being injured from a chiropractic adjustment is very slim. Right now, once again, are there some adverse reactions? Are there some pre-existing things that occur sometimes? Absolutely. But in all, chiropractic care, generally speaking, is a safe, non-invasive form of healthcare. And so anyone who is considering chiropractic care, I would just tell them to, go in, fill out the office, ask to meet the doctor, go in for a consult. And above all, make sure that it's a place that actually resonates with you.
Right. Brilliant answer. Love that. And I think a lot of people have a misconception and they really look at chiropractic totally different from what it is reality, where you're looking at the neuromusculoskeletal system and you see stress points, subluxation. And I don't think people really see the objective of what chiropractic does. They see a crack or a pop and they think, well, that's the objective of chiropractic. In reality, no, we're trying to align, trying to balance the system out. We're trying to take stress points or subluxations so the body can work as a unit and whole. So I love that answer. Dr. Mike, do you want to add any comment to that with the viewers?
I think just go shadow Dr. Byron's office. I mean, you're welcome to follow my office or Dr. Gordy's too, but go follow Dr. Byron for the day and get some love from him and watch how he interacts with people and then get on his table and let him, do his services on you and, experience it. So,
I got to tell you, if you come to my office, you may not get the quote unquote crack or pop, right? And let me explain. I tell patients, don't get addicted to crack, right? Crack is a terrible thing. No one wants to get addicted to crack, right? It's just my little joke, right? Or someone will call the office and say, hey, doc, can I come in and get a crack? I say, well, listen, the only thing I crack are jokes and smiles, right? And they're like, oh yeah, can I come get adjusted, right? Can you check me out to see if I need to be adjusted, right? And so I'm saying all that to say that's just something that people like Dr. Gordy, people like Dr. Headlee, that you all are doing a phenomenal job just trying to educate people as to what it is that chiropractors actually do, right? A lot of times people hear this clicking, this popping sound. Well, what is that? You know, essentially it's energy that's being released, right? Just like if you open a soda can pop, right? Why does it pop? Why does it feel? It's because there's energy that's been stuck. It's life literally being stuck in that can. And so you're opening, you're releasing it. So sometimes you may hear a click or a pop, and essentially think of that as an indication of, wow, that was a really misaligned area of my body. How much more able are you now going to be able to function and love and be able to give now that that interference is removed?
Absolutely. Great explanation. And Dr. Byron, we only have a couple minutes left, but I would like to touch base with you on your spirituality aspect that you maybe use in the office and you write about. I mean, you pray for patients. I know you have scriptural verses and quotes on the walls. Tell us a little bit how you incorporate that into your practice.
Yeah. So just so the listeners understand that the key thing is very simple. We are all spiritual beings. We live in a physical body and we have a mind. What do I mean by that? If you've ever been in a room and you can just feel this aura of a person, or you can just feel that, you know, something's different about this person, whether you liked it or didn't like it, right? That's that spiritual part of you, right? Your spirit. Now, your physical body isn't you, right? It's your house that you live in, and you have a mind, right? Your mind, your will, your emotions. And so with that being the case, I think chiropractic care essentially just helps sync all three up. It helps sync the spiritual part of your body, your spirit to your body and to your mind. Because when you have those misalignments, my thought process is that it's adding stress. That stress then inhibits you from fully functioning at your full capacity. When we realign a spine or a joint of any kind and you remove that stress, then you're able to function more optimally. So do I pray for patients? Absolutely. Do I believe that spirituality is an important aspect of life? For sure. At the end of the day, I always tell people, regardless of your spiritual walk, we didn't create birds. We didn't create trees, right? I don't care what you call that higher power. I call that higher power God. I just truly believe there was something that created all of us. Our job is to try to connect with that. And then after that, try to see what we can do to add value to one another.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Dr. Byron. So I close out our podcast by asking our listeners, what one takeaway that you heard Byron talk about that you could share at the water cooler tomorrow with a colleague? And then what's your number one action step that you can leave from this podcast or this video and take action on that he talked about, or he inspired you to take action to improve your health, or to see a chiropractor, or if you're considering chiropractic as a career, or you need to lose weight, you need to look up one of his books on Amazon, whatever. What's your number one action step you're going to take? So with that, Dr. Byron, how can people get a hold of your books and contact you and website? And I know you have started a YouTube channel with educational videos. Tell us how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so real quickly, right? So wherever books are sold, right? Amazon is a real big thing now here in America, right? So if you go on Amazon, you can look up 100 Health Secrets, or my latest book, You Should Prosper. And the whole concept of that book is just saying that, hey, everybody should be prosperous, right? And prosperity isn't just about money, it's overall well-being. Does that include money? Sure. But everyone should prosper. And so it just gives you action steps in that book as well. And then on YouTube, what I'm doing now is I'm actually creating a series. The channel is called Your Favorite Doctor. And oftentimes people ask, well, Doc, what can I do at home to kind of maintain this health, to keep things in a good, proper alignment, to make sure I'm staying active? And so rather than me keep demonstrating exercises and giving handouts that people sometimes lose, right? Or they call in office, or they say, hey, Doc, can I take a picture of you doing it? Or can I take a video? What I'm doing now is I'm in a process of actually putting up videos for all the major areas of the body. So the low back, the mid back, the neck, the knees, the shoulders, the hands, things like that.
Nice. Well, I really appreciate your passion, your motivation, you're willing to share, and just a wealth of information and a bundle of energy and joy. So keep doing great work.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Byron, it was nice to meet you and talk to you. Your passion comes through. I just want to tell the viewers for next week, we have a great show. We're going to do it on gut health, which includes leaky gut syndrome. So we'll go through all the things that are necessary to bring a healthy gut and bring health to your body. Mike, anything else to add to that? Otherwise, we will check out now and see everybody next week.
No, thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle Podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode.